Dear friends of wind energy, dear friends of the Hellenic Wind Energy Association, I would like to welcome you to our today's event on wind energy and circular economy, recycling wind turbines. It is a rather gloomy day. We will spare no effort to bring light into this day of international difficult policies and politics. These developments are indirectly linked to our industry and to the energy crisis we are living today. I would like to start off by introductory remarks on wind energy and the industry. Remarks that will serve as feed for thought for the speakers that will follow. The circular economy supports the European Commission's action plan on the Green Deal, aiming to reduce waste, reuse materials and recover raw materials from waste. Wind turbine materials are recycled up to 85 to 90% so far. The wind turbine blades are a challenge because of the composite materials used for their construction. The wind turbine industry moves to new technologies of wind turbine construction to make the industry, all in all, efficient. This will lead to efficient technologies for on- and offshore wind farms in Greece. International companies, wind turbine manufacturers, some of whom are today with us here, have announced significant research projects with ambitious targets. Wind Europe, and we have Giles Dixon with us today, the CEO of the company, committed to these significant targets, has called on the European Union for a landfill ban of wind farm turbines. Although turbine blades are non-toxic and are landfilling safe, it leads to more waste. On the other hand, LTN, in the context of the initiative Ask for Wind, has published information on the subject matter in its website, among which are also methods to recycle composite materials. So we all here today to gain updates and insights into this information campaign. We should not forget that circular economy does not involve only recycling. Cyclicality should involve all stages of a wind farm, from installation to decommissioning after its end of life. The relevant technologies are now ready to deploy, and everybody in this sector should use them in order to make wind farms role models for green environment. Cyclicality is part of the industry's DNA, and we should showcase that in our daily work. This seminar comes at a time where many wind farms reach their end of life, and a debate has been initiated on the necessary changes for repowering these wind farms. We should not forget that repowering and lifetime extension are part of the debate on cyclicality. Well, all these issues, best practices, the experience and perspectives will be part of our today's discussion with representatives from politics, industry and the civil society. Having said that, I would like to welcome the Secretary General for Energy and Mineral Resources, Ms. Alexandra Zdoukou, who has joined us this difficult day to share her thoughts. Good morning, Ms. Zdoukou.
Good morning, Mr. Ladakakos. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you. Well, I do not wish to comment this gloomy reality, but for the next few moments I will try to focus on our subject. I will try not to have my mind lost around these developments. So, circular economy. Great. Let me start with my subject. First of all, thank you for the invitation. Congratulations indeed for this initiative and for organizing this workshop. It is true that you have chosen a very special and sophisticated subject, and I have to admit that your topic, your subject today made me feel quite weird, because indeed, there is some power behind these two concepts, one of wind energy and the other of circular economy. So when you combine, when you marry these two concepts, great power is generated. I'm very glad that we are opening this to public debate. My sense is that this happens for the first time. So we are opening up to the public debate this chapter, the end of life of wind generators, decommissioning and dismantling of wind turbines. Perhaps this is not a mature topic, because eventually so far there was not such a demand in our country. And even if we do have a few stations which are approaching the end of life, obviously this is a topic that will concern us in the future. Now, listen, I don't think that my comments will have any added value for today's event, because I'm not familiar with the subject. But I'm very glad to see that you have invited my dear friends and colleagues, Manolis Grafakos and Petros Varelidis, who are the experts on this topic. And you have also invited Giles, who definitely will convey the experience and the practices applied worldwide. Now, if I can say a couple of words, I would like to focus on two or three constants, elements that highlight the need for developing strategies and policies for wind generator recycling. First, we are going to have a big number of wind turbines to be replaced by 2030. This shift to renewable energy sources is a reality today. Yesterday I intended to look into the topic and look for some figures. This is what I usually do before any speech. So I was looking into some numbers from the latest report of the World Wind Energy Council. I'm not sure if the figures are correct, but in order to achieve the net zero scenario, according to these figures, we need annual installed capacity of wind stations, 180 giga by 2025 and 280 by 2030. This means 3 times more than the annual installed capacity for 2020, which was around 93 gigawatts. And in 2030, the total installed capacity from wind generators will explode, as I understand, from 200 giga up to 743. So the total investment will go up to 1.6 trillion euro. And this is how wind energy will penetrate the world energy mix. Of course, these are international trends, and respectively, Greece is setting its own goals and targets. And as we have said in the ministry, we will revise the targets and upscale the targets. We all know the national targets for the moment, So this suggests that there are favorable conditions for installing a big number of wind turbines in the next years. This is something that makes us happy, of course, but at the same time, we needed to be mobilized and we needed to act proactively in order to define the course of these generators after their end of life. And the second constant, the second element is that at the same time we have a number of wind energy stations that are approaching the decommissioning stage. And looking into some figures, I've seen that in Europe currently there are 34,000 wind turbines, a total capacity around 36 gigawatt, which are more than 15 years old. Perhaps some of them are more than 20, 25 years old. And many of those turbines are in France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Portugal. And by 2024, of course, you know the figures better, Wind Europe is aware, around 12,000 more generators will be decommissioned. And every year, around 25,000 tons of blades will approach their end of life by 2025. And this will keep increasing by 2030. Therefore, the conclusion is that this is an issue that is approaching our door, and since 2018, 26 stations have their licenses expired. 200 megawatt is the total capacity. By 2030, this number of stations will go up to 1.5 gigawatt in terms of capacity, in terms of power. And therefore, we have this obligation, the obligation of dismantling, decommissioning around 1,000 wind turbines. So if we do not want to see in a few years piled, abandoned blades all over Greece, which will actually change the image and the positive contribution of wind energy, because it will become an environmental problem. So if we don't want to see that, we have to find ways to reinforce by providing incentives and by a solid framework. We have to boost recycling. And I have seen also studies carried out by Wind Europe. Mr. Dixon, I've seen that we can recycle around 85 to 90% of the total mass of wind generators, from the smaller components up to the foundations, the tower. I'm trying to learn the terms and the names of the components of generators. So it's very important that we are able to recycle the raw materials of such components, for example, steel, which is used for the manufacturing, the construction of the towers, if I'm not mistaken. So this can be reused without losing quality. But I've seen that it's not that easy to recycle the blades, as you have said yourself. It's quite difficult to recycle the blades of wind turbines because they may contain composites which are used for their production. So this is quite a technical topic to me, but it is true that if we want to reach the end of the journey, if we do want to fully develop this sector, we have to find all solutions available for recycling of wind turbines, because this first generation of wind farms is aging and definitely needs to be replaced. Anyway, I consider that this recycling topic is a global challenge with huge dimensions and extensions, social, political, environmental. So I believe that all around the world currently there are laboratories. I do know that there are such labs in the US trying to find methods to correlate the wind energy with circular economy. But we also see gradually synergies growing between industries and technical centers for developing fully recyclable wind turbines. And so, Mr. Ladakakos and all participants, I would like to stress this point. I know that Wind Europe, among others, is also promoting this idea of increasing and improving recycling of composite waste using alternative technologies, recycling technologies. I know that the wind industry has given priority to recycling of old blades, meaning that we need infrastructures and technologies for dismantling, collection, transportation, processing, and so on, and integration into the value chain in general. But I believe that anyway we can find solutions in the course of time. We just need to have goodwill and creative imagination. And let me also remind of your initiative, Mr. Ladakakos, the LTN initiative, because I think that you have turned the metal into benches and decoration in the Christmas village of Trikala. All the blades that were dismantled from some wind energy station, if I remember, from PPC Renewables on Chios. And so what we need is to invest in more research and innovation, in my view, to this direction of extending the recycling technologies for the recycling of composites. And I don't know if this is true, but out of curiosity, let me ask, I've seen that dismantling disassembling a generator of 2 megawatts produces around 25 tons of composite waste. I don't know if this is true. That's why I said that I'm very curious to hear what will be said in this workshop today. I'm curious to learn more than saying. But thanks to this extension of wind parks in Europe, we are going to have around 375,000 tons of dismantled blades in Europe. So we have to find solutions immediately to this direction. Anyway, since wind energy can become a bigger part of a circular economy, this is a critical topic that needs to be given priority. I've been quite long. Thank you very much. Let's listen to the experts.
Thank you, Secretary General. Your remarks were to the point. You have touched upon many issues. You have asked many questions. You have brought many figures on the table. And I will not try to elaborate on that because we have subject matter experts from around Europe to provide us with insights into the industry. Thank you very much for promoting our initiative. Indeed, together with PPC Renewables, we have made an effort to showcase, if you mind, how one can use wind turbine blades until integrated solutions can be found. Nowadays, there are many applications, there are many ways how wind turbines can be used as alternative reuse. And we will have the chance to listen to the PPC Renewables representative. Please let me tell you that the first wind farms installed in the 80s have reached their end of life at the time. It was PPC that launched the wind farm technology in Greece, and it is a very interesting path and shows the ways for the players to come. And If time allows, we anticipate that you remain in our workshop. I'd like to inform the audience that Giles Dixon is delayed. He has a delay. He's at the airport. His flight has delayed. We're expecting him from in the next couple of minutes. Since I can see that Manolis Grafakos, the Secretary General for Waste Management, is available, I would like to welcome him and hand over to him. Manolis Grafakos is Secretary General for Waste Management at the Environment Ministry and will talk to us about the end of life of a wind turbine, which sadly is waste. Mr. Grafakos, can you hear us? We have no visual of Mr. Grafakos. I believe Mr. Dimitris Papastergiou, the President of the Central Union of Greek Municipalities, has joined us. Good morning, Mr. Papastergiou. Thank you very much for being with us today. Mr. Papastergiou was also part of the initiative on the Mill of Elves and the Christmas village in Trikala, where a wind turbine blade was used. And the Regulatory Authority for Energy has had a vital role to play. Mr. Papastergiou, thank you very much for being with us today. We believe that the local government has a great role to play in development of wind energy, in wind farm treatment and management, and in the circular economy. You have taken significant initiatives. I would like to give you the floor for an initial statement and your remarks. Thank you very much. Well, it is a pleasure. And since other speakers have problems with their connections, it's my turn now. Well, let me tell you that this issue has been an issue for local government in many ways. And since we're seeing that the price of the kilowatt hour has skyrocketed from 6.3 to 25.2 cents, this is also a reason why we should bring ourselves into the issue of licensing and installation. It's been time that we get involved also in the process for of virtual metering, and I have. While I was listening to the workshop, I was preparing the paper for the debate with Mr. Petsas and Mr. Skylakakis from the respective ministries, because the government cannot, because the citizens cannot cover these high costs. And this is not also a problem for the government, but also for the municipalities. We have to bring forward proposals for renewable energy systems, and at the time we were preparing our plans, we didn't have this problem before us, the problem of high prices. Before 6 months ago, when we started off preparing the Mill of Elves, we were talking about just a Christmas village, but a gram of action, if you'd like, equals many tons of theory. Well, for the 10th time, we were staging a Mill of Elves, and it was high time that we discussed the topic of climate change, of the forest fires in summer in Greece, and it was a chance to talk about wind energy as well. I am an electrical engineer. This was of help to the debate at the time. Reality is that municipalities have a twofold. They see the wind energy farm installation in two ways. Wind farms should be installed. I am looking for those protesting against the wind farm industry, considering the high prices of 25 cents per kilowatt hour. And well, it is high time that we strike a balance between obtaining energy and keeping a balance with the environment. But we should not turn a blind eye to the discussion and the real issues involved. Thank you very much to all of you involved in this discussion as well. And to those involved in this project of bringing the 3 blades to the Mill of Elves. And it was necessary to stop, to turn a deaf ear to those talking about all the evils brought by wind turbines. I guess that many materials of a wind turbine are highly recyclable. I guess it's not only a problem of wind turbines. This way, together with the Hellenic Regulatory Energy Authority, that was representatives of which were present over 40 days in the Mill of Elves, talking to children about renewable energy, and to send exactly this message that the environment needs us and we need a different perspective. The wind turbine blade benches were really a highlight. We kept them in our park. The area where the Mill of Elves is staged is actually a park. And a 3rd blade was used as a board, as a milestone board, as a landmark board for the Mill of Elves. It was exactly a chance to show that there are ways how one can can repurpose turbine blades and put them into use. It is impressive, and I'd like to share this with you, that some people protesting wanted to come to the Mill of Elves and protest against the wind energy. And it was really impressive that 5 people were protesting in front of the turbine blades. But I guess all in all, we have sent the message. It lies in our hands to keep these alternative ways, bring them into our everyday use, and I guess there is no reason to talk about whether wind farms should exist or not. I guess we should talk about the concept and how we can bring it near to the local societies in order to shift to a green future. And to stop being dependent and reliant on fossil fuels in going forward. I would like to thank you on behalf of the Union of Municipalities. We will be on your side so that renewable energies and wind farm energy becomes part of everyday life for our citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Papastergiou, for this presentation. I would say that since I started by saying that the day today is quite grey and gloomy, however, the examples that you have given us make us feel optimistic. And indeed, you are right. Actions are more important than words. And an effort started, a symbolic effort, and LTN truly wants to support this effort because the role of the local authorities is extremely important for growth in the country. And you are in a difficult point, in a difficult turn, because you are the bridge between development of several activities, not just the wind farms, and the local societies, which sometimes are quite conservative and hesitant and reluctant and negative or have or show Luben behaviors. So LTN and the wind energy sector in general, I would say, are more than available to closely work with the local authorities, with you, with the central union, with all municipalities, because we do wanted to hear your concerns, and we also wanted to present to you our plans so that we can always find the best possible solution. Thank you for being with us today, and we are looking forward to continuing this collaboration. Let me say that Mr. Dixon has not joined us yet, but Mr. Grafakos is here. I think his connection has been restored. Good morning, Mr. Grafakos. Mr. Manolis Grafakos, Secretary General in the Industry for Waste Management, in the Ministry, sorry, for Waste Management. Thank you for being here. I will give you the floor immediately so that you can deliver a presentation and address today's event. Thank you very much. Just a couple of thoughts on my side, because my colleague and good friend Alexandra Zdoukou has covered most of it, most of the subject. She has fully covered the subject, and my friend Dimitris Papastergiou have also covered the topic. It's not a good day today, it's a bad day. We hope that this day does not have a negative impact on the course of European developments for the next years. Anyway, today is a day that highlights the need for the country to have energy sufficiency, self-sufficiency. And this can be achieved either by renewable energy sources and photovoltaic systems or through wind farms. This is something that should not be recalled by today's events. This is something that we should have planned for years ago. But the current government has this as a top priority. And apart from energy sufficiency issues, there is also an issue about green energy and environment-friendly energy. So in our government, Kyriakos Mitsotakis' government, this is one of the topics that are very high in our agenda. So we have in front of us a universal, on the part of the government and for most of the society, we have a universal support for such a development, of course, with a proper siting framework for renewable energy sources and wind energy. In financial terms, supply and demand terms, there's going to be remarkable development of the energy production methods from wind. This means that the systems to produce the energy will be developed. And this brings me to the other part of the environmental topic. What is going to happen with this waste? In the European legislation, in the EU legislation and practice, we have the clear principle, the polluter pays. And this becomes action through the process of collecting the systems, energy production systems in our case, when they become waste. So collection and reuse or recycling. The example, quite an intelligent example applied by Dimitris Papastergiou in Trikala, is not recycling, it is repurposing or reuse. It shows how the components of wind turbines, blades in this case, can replace elements of the urban fitting in the cities, because this is something that is aesthetic and nice, which follows the logic of circular economy, and it is a part of the process of prioritizing waste. So prevention, reuse, and then recycling. So there is a lot of room for action here. There are entities which are very sensitive in such topics, and they are placing this item very high in the agenda and in the public debate. And as Petros Varilidis is going to explain in a while, we have not chosen to put in place a mandatory system for all this management. But believe me, we are not far from there. And anything that is done by the state, by the Ministry for Environment, will be done in a coordinated manner and in partnership, in collaboration with this industry, because obviously we have a common objective, and the common goal, the common objective is to develop renewable energy sources through wind turbines, and the common objective is to remove, when time comes, the components of wind turbines in a way in order to achieve the best possible waste management through reuse and recycling. And throughout this cycle, I think that by innovation, by research, by technological advances, we will strike a balance and we will find the best possible way which we are going to promote for the best possible waste management in the future. Thank you for the invitation. I wish every success to your works, both the works of today's event, but also every success to your ongoing effort to make our environment better through your industry.
Secretary General, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you very much for your introductory words. Indeed, the subject matter you have been dealing with becomes even more important to wind energy industry. And as an industry sector, we're trying to anticipate the challenges before they reach our front yard, if you'd like. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Grafakos. I would like to hand over to Petros Varelidis, Secretary General for Natural Environment and Water Resources. Good morning, Mr. Varelidis. Over to you. We'd like to listen to your introductory remarks so that we have a full house of Secretary General remarks on the subject matter discussed today. Thank you very much as well for the invitation. The speakers before me have covered to a greater extent, if not fully, the subject at issue. On my part, I would like to add that in reality, the two pillars of modern European environmental approach are climate change and circular economy. Along this axis, we have to move, and there are, of course, overlaps between these two factors. Wind turbines are, of course, part of a strategy to reach a climate-neutral Europe going forward. And if you allow me to link the wind turbine, the wind farm issue with today's politics, I would dare to say that wind turbines are also part of an approach to become independent of fossil fuels, of oil, of gas, given, of course, the constraints of wind turbines because of weather conditions and external factors. Without doubt, it is necessary to scale up renewable energies in our energy mix as soon as possible. The crisis evolving over the past months and reaching their climax over the last days demonstrate this need in the most prominent way, and we should all take action into this direction. Of course, we all taking part in today's discussion know very well that wind turbines, although the the people, local people are very aware of the positive impact. There is very much reaction to wind farm projects being developed, and this is also evident in the technical studies being promoted, and also vis-à-vis the regulative actions that are to follow. Wind farm installation are one of the points of contention with local societies and non-government organizations and other stakeholders. Once wind turbines reach their end of life, they should obviously be managed in the most efficient way in terms of their waste. We follow, of course, the management approach for construction in terms of the foundation. In terms of wind turbine blades, since they are made of composite materials, they are nearly impossible to recycle. This is a reality that we need to face, and please let me tell you that I have my doctoral thesis was on composite materials. So I'd say that I'm fully aware of the reality. Composite materials are non-recyclable. They are made of epoxy resins, which, of course, cannot be heated up and recycled. Well, if we move on to other technological solutions such as thermoplastic matrices, it might be easier to recycle, but still the presence of fibers in the polymers make it very much difficult to recycle them, and we should opt in for dissolution as dissolution, and the cost rises significantly. There are some solutions high up in the hierarchy of actions, such as wind turbine blade repurposing in order to make benches, etc. But this may not be a massive approach unless we decide to replace all benches with wind turbine blades. Well, I mean that technologically wise, we should look into whether the chemical recycling, which in terms of regulation is not recycling, might be a way out of the problem. In any case, once wind turbines reach their end of life, should be collected and managed in an environmentally proper way. To do that, the concept put forward also in the updated action plan on circular economy is to investigate together with Manolis Grafakos and his department whether it could be introduced or it could be part of the extended producer responsibility, and on the basis of the pollutant pays principle, we might reach a scheme whereby at the end of life of a wind turbine, the producer should ensure that the produced waste is managed in a proper manner. This is, of course, subject to investigation, and institutional intervention is also necessary. As a point of start, we were thinking about launching, together with the Hellenic Recyclable Society, into launching a study, a case study to find out whether it is possible, and then talk about whether it can be regulated in terms of institutions or in terms of a ministerial decision, as is the case with other products which are part of the extended producer responsibility scheme. Well, on the subject matter, I guess this is what I can bring into the discussion. And let me add that we are trying to deal in a balanced way with the issue of wind turbines installed in sensitive regions, in places where there is reaction and opposition from NGOs and local government. We're also considering environmental licensing issues so that licensing can move in a can be stepped up, can move forward faster in the foreseen way, so that we are fair against all stakeholders and say yes where yes should be said and say no where no should be said, and actually fast and with legal certainty. Thank you very much.
Secretary General, first of all, thank you. Your remarks were to the point. I would say that you have thrown the ball to the next speakers quite provocatively. I will not dare to fight against the Secretary General for Environment, who has made his thesis on the recycling of composite waste. I'm an electrical engineer myself, so I will not dare to do that. The message of the wind industry is more optimistic than what you have said about recycling of blades. I'm talking about composites because 85 to 90% of wind turbines is fully recyclable. The only challenge is with the blades, as you have pointed out. And a lot of work is done there on the research level. I think that the wind industry, although it is not the main industry using composites, is quite advanced. It is on the spearhead of the research effort. For example, there are vessels, the shipping industry also uses composites, and there are other constructions, but they do not have this persistence in finding solutions. But since circular economy is in our DNA, as I said before, I think and I hope that quite soon we are going to have practical results on the recycling of blades. Thank you for your presence. And the ball is also in your field, because in the supply chain for wind energy projects, you are the most useful link of the chain. You are in environmental licensing, and indeed, as you said before, this is what we have been saying for years. It's very important for the administration, the political leadership, to decide fast whether a planned wind farm will go on or not. We don't need the political leadership to say yes to all planned wind farms in the country, but it's important to know that the investments will go on, because otherwise there is confusion in local societies. We have a very good cooperation with you. Aleta has a very good collaboration with you, and we hope that this will go on in the near future. Thank you for your presence today. I hope you have time to join the discussions later on. I'm looking forward, especially for the next session, which is on composites. Let me now come to the President and CEO of DAPEP, Mr. Yarentis, Chairman and CEO of DAPEP. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for for your presence today. The role of DAPEP, the Renewable Energy Sources Operator and Guarantees of Origin, is very useful for wind farms. Your knowledge, experience, and passion for wind energy and renewable energy sources is very important. So we want to hear your thoughts and proposals on this topic. First of all, thank you. Thank you for the invitation to participate in this event. We should not forget, and we always need to repeat, that such initiatives and such debates and dialogue on such topics are always positive, always have something to contribute. And LTN has shown that it has an active role, or even a pioneer role, a leading role on all these topics. So we need to congratulate the LTN as a whole, but also the chairman, the president, my dear friend, Mr. Ladakakos. But we need to start with the current reality, with the topic on the news, and let me wish for peace to be restored in the area, in Ukraine. War conflicts are always unpleasant, and all these pictures of war, no matter where they come from all over the world, are always unpleasant, even more so when they are close to our borders, and there is an impact on us as well. This is an experience that we have every day. This situation also affects the economic situation of the country, but also the household economy. When we see the energy cost, because the energy cost now is on the front line, on the top of the agenda concerning the news and difficulties faced by consumers, either household consumers or industrial consumers. So my point is that this whole situation, unfortunately, will not be uneventful. There is going to be an impact. The natural gas prices also affected by this situation in Ukraine will be affected because Russia is involved, who is the main supplier of natural gas for Europe, and definitely our country will also be affected. The truth is, and I have to state it, that this supply to our country is not so much, does not depend so much on Russia. Of course, Russia is involved, but we also have the alternative option of supplying our country with natural gas from the transatlantic pipe TAP, which is a recent supply established in the last years, and also from Revithoussa, because there is a liquidification of natural gas, and then it is LNG supplied to the country. So this uppressed will have an impact on our country. Let's hope that it will have only a minimum impact, and let's wish and hope that it will end soon. This was an introduction which is linked to the LTN activity. So LTN, the scientific union which is dealing with wind energy, the Hellenic Wind Energy Association, is the one that contributes greatly to the reduction, the lowering of the energy cost. So I will say here, by figures, numbers of DAPEP, our company, that the annual production of energy from wind farms, so wind energy, came up to 9.7 terawatt hours, meaning that for a total number of 50, this accounts for 20% of the energy mix in the country and the energy needs of the country. And this came after the installed capacity of 4 gigawatt of wind farms in the country. Now, I will make a comment that may sound quite strong, because now a discussion, a debate is restarted by some people with the dilemma. They are raising the dilemma. Is it too early, perhaps, for delignitization, decarbonization? Is it too early, perhaps? Well, I will reply, no, it's not too early for decarbonization. It is quite late, actually, for decarbonization. And it is also quite late for installing more renewable energy sources in the country, because if installation of renewable energy sources in the country had started 5 years earlier, then the current situation would be much better. It has been proven by the diagrams, the charts of ECHE, and the pricing charts, the annual fluctuation of the energy price. So it is obvious from these charts that during the hours where there is renewable energy sources penetration, the price goes down. On the contrary, when there is lower penetration of renewable sources, and if we depend on natural gas, the price goes up. Therefore, to close this pseudo dilemma, which is raised by some people on whether it is too early or too late for decarbonization, the answer is no. No, it's not too early. It is we are exactly on time for decarbonization. But installation of renewable energy sources came quite late. And of course, the spearhead of renewable energy sources is wind energy, because wind energy has mass production. Wind energy is the renewable source that provides the amounts, the quantities of energy needed in the country. And what we all need to do is to help both the state and the entities and the market have to do their part so that we can go faster, and so that we can coordinate better the installation of more renewable energy sources units, and especially, particularly, wind farms. There is a coordinated effort by the government to fast-track and simplify licenses in order for the right conditions to be put in place and the renewable energy sources to go forward in the country. And now to come to the next point on this subject, contribution of wind energy. The contribution of wind energy is a given fact nowadays, and it is self-evident. And I wish to point out here that wind energy, as a part of the renewable energy sources, needs to coexist with social acceptance of the renewable energy sources, and major steps are needed there in order to combat ignorance and misleading information, and in order to terminate such extreme voices that blame the renewable energy sources, because those who blame the renewable energy sources are actually turning against the environment. We know the facts. We know the contribution of energy from renewable sources to a clean environment. And speaking of the environment, and since we are talking about this topic, let me say that by circular economy, the environment and circular economy are associated concepts, interrelated concepts that go towards the future hand by hand. And circular economy, in order to also integrate today's topic, is about recycling for the future, recycling of wind turbines, especially blades, as mentioned before. This is a perspective, it has to do with how we perceive reality. And I have to stress here that science and the renewable energy sources people aim at a better environment. Circular economy also aims at a cleaner environment, and these all are interrelated. And the construction sector, the wind generator construction sector, with the future of recycling the wind turbines, have to follow the same direction. The life of wind turbines is quite long, 20 years. That can go up to 25 or 30 years. So this is something that we do have in front of our eyes. There are very few cases where we might need at the moment to decommission or recycle wind turbines. But it's an existing topic, and we have to look into the subject quite early. But all those who are in this broader community dealing with the environment and the circular economy are indeed finding solutions and will find solutions. And together with the state, the issue will be dealt with. Now, technical proposals are sought for such topics, and I think they are following the right track. So I don't worry. I'm sure that there is a common reasoning, common way of thinking, common efforts, joint efforts. I'm not afraid, as some people who say, what are we going to do with wind turbines in the future? Well, I'm not concerned for the moment. I do not care. It might sound bad, but I'm sure that the scientific community, the state, and all institutional bodies and organizations will address this topic of recycling and circular economy, which is a concern in part for the moment, and it does concern the environmental community. Thank you very much. We are going to hear more, and I'm sure we are going to discuss more specific topics, and we will go deeper into the subject. I will be glad to join any initiative to this effect. Thank you.